Thanks for joining us. You're looking at a live shot of Piper Arms Pub right by the Scarborough Town Center, and that's where a shooting took place last night. According to police, 3 masked men opened fire on a crowd inside, injuring 12 people. And that's where our Nama Weingarten has been all day. So Nama, what's the latest from the scene?
The pub where, like you said, shots erupted last night, injuring a dozen people. Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkew came here down to the scene just earlier this afternoon, saying it's incredible nobody was killed. But he also fielded questions for reporters, saying he can't provide an update while the 3 suspects are still at large.
There's glass walls that are shattered. There's blood all over the floor. Some people ran to the basement before the police got here hiding, so there's blood in the basement. It's a big scene, it's a messy scene.
Armed with 2 handguns and an assault rifle, the 3 masked gunmen walked into this pub shortly before 10:40 Friday night, when police say they started firing indiscriminately. Police say 12 people were injured. 6 of those victims with gunshot wounds are expected to recover. Others were injured from flying broken glass.
Myself and the other officers that watched the video, we are horrified by it. We've seen a lot of shootings over the years, a lot of video. You get a nerd to it to a certain extent, but tonight's shooting, these guys just looked at the crowd and opened fire. It was horrible.
He says the video shows people eating and drinking at the bar and then ducking for cover once the gunfire erupted, some falling to the floor after being struck. The victims range in age, from their 20s to mid-50s. Police say they're still looking for the suspects who escaped in a vehicle. Their motive remains unclear. This all happened during the pub's opening night. Multiple people posting on social media, speculating there might be a link between the shooting and recent violence connected to the tow truck industry, something that police have not confirmed yet, but are still investigating as a possibility.
We're open to that, but we're not sure yet. We're looking at who the owners are, who the patrons are to this premises.
That's after a wave of shootings this past week linked to the towing industry. On Tuesday, 2 men were shot outside a tow yard in the city's West End, and a tow truck driver got shot at a gas station in Scarborough just roughly an hour later. In an unrelated address, Mayor Olivia Chow said her thoughts are with the victims.
It is troubling because of the magnitude of the shootings and the number of people hurt. And I don't want to speculate as to the why and how.
At the scene, local city councillor Michael Thompson said gun violence has been an ongoing issue in Scarborough and has a message for the U.S. as it struck Canada with tariffs, partially blaming border security.
Guns are coming across from the United States into our community, killing Canadians.
Meanwhile, people living in the area say they feel shaken up.
I feel like it's something that does happen a lot in Scarborough, those type of shootings, but not to that degree.
It's definitely something to think about when you step out of the house.
Toronto is a beautiful city, and we can't be having countless of people, getting hurt or injured because of senseless, shootings like this happening over and over again.
Just earlier this morning, Ontario Premier Doug Ford tweeted out saying that his thoughts are with the victims and their family. We also tried reaching out to the owners of the pub, but I haven't heard back. But as you can see right now behind me, police are still on the scene and are expected to stay for a while as they scavenge it for any clues. In the meantime, they still haven't provided a description for any of the suspects and are asking anyone with information or footage of the shooting to come forward.
Thank you, Nama. That's our Nama Weingarten reporting from Scarborough. And many Toronto parents will be relieved to hear a city worker strike has been averted. If the strike went ahead, many of the city's daycare and recreation centers would have closed, threatening to upend some families' plans for March break. Tyler Cheese has the latest on this tentative deal.
That's awesome. It's cold outside, so people need inside activities. So I'm glad things get to keep going.
Many Torontonians were happy to hear that a municipal workers' strike had been averted late Friday night. A tentative deal was struck between the city and the workers' union ahead of the strike deadline, which had been set for 12:01 a.m. on Monday.
It wasn't easy. It took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of dedication and a lot of solidarity and organizing, not just inside the local, but with people across the city of Toronto.
The union says the tentative agreement includes wage increases and an end to minimum wage jobs. Other details of the 4-year agreement will stay confidential until union members and city council review and ratify it. Union leadership says the deal will help the city tackle its issues with recruiting and retaining workers.
I know a lot of people talk about taxes being raised, but those investments go into public services. And when people use public services, they expect efficiency, high quality services. You can't get efficiency and high quality services when there aren't enough workers to deliver those services. And the way they retain and recruit workers is by paying them and treating them with respect.
If work action did take place, around 30,000 city employees would have been on strike, which would have closed most of the city's daycare and recreation centers as of Monday morning, just as March break begins. But instead,
our employees will be there providing March break camps on top of the great work that happens in our recreation facilities and all of the great other services of our local 79 members.
QP 79 workers show up every day when we need them most. By serving tens of thousands of Torontonians, they help build a caring and more affordable city.
Mayor Olivia Chow also expressing gratitude that a deal could be reached ahead of the deadline.
And at the heart of these services are people, the workers who day in and day out dedicate their whole being to provide the best care to thousands of children, seniors, the homeless, and the sick.
While this strike was averted, the city will now look to another possibility of action as the union representing Toronto Public Library workers voted in favor of a strike on Friday. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
And tomorrow, the Federal Liberal Party will be naming its new leader and next Prime Minister. The winner will face the huge challenge of steering Canada through Donald Trump's trade war. CBC Olivia Stefanovic is following this story from Ottawa.
After a 6-week race, this is it. The Liberal Party is set to select its next leader tomorrow, who will go on to replace Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister after 10 years in office. Whoever wins will have to steer Canada through economic chaos and threats to insovereignty. Now, all 4 candidates have pitched themselves as the best person to deal with U.S. President Donald Trump, but Liberals appear to be throwing their support behind one candidate more than the others. Mark Carney, the former governor of the Banks of England and Canada. He's dealt with crises before, including Brexit and the 2008 financial crisis. Now he says he's ready to take on Trump.
I salute the provinces who are stepping up in this fight, and the Canadian government that is rightly retaliating with tariffs that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here in Canada. And if you select me as Liberal leader and Prime Minister, if you do that, we are going to keep those tariffs on until the Americans show us some respect and make credible commitments to free trade.
Carney by far has the most support from the Liberal caucus and the most fundraising dollars, but he doesn't have the most political experience. And he's going up against candidates with much more, including Chrystia Freeland, the former finance minister and deputy prime minister. She went head-to-head with Trump the last time they were renegotiating NAFTA. Now she says she has the most experience for this job to lead the party and lead the country through all of this chaos. And she's making that known on the U.S. cable circuit.
At the end of the day, the laws of economics prevail. And the reality is your economic relationship with us is great. It is balanced. It is mutually beneficial. It is good for the United States. It is good for Canada. And that's why, as Prime Minister, my approach would be united, strong, and smart. I'm sure there would be lots of insults. I'm sure there would be lots of name-calling. And I'm also sure at the end of the day, we would get back to a win-win.
Former Liberal House Leader Karina Gould and Frank Baylis, a former Liberal MP and Montreal businessman, are also in the running. They say they support retaliation against Trump, and while they may not be seen as the frontrunners, they did impress a lot of Liberals during their debate performances. Liberals have until 3 p.m. tomorrow to cast their ballots. The party says it's already received votes from 130,000 members. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
And turning to the latest on Canada's trade war with the U.S., Ottawa has announced a $6 billion aid package for affected businesses. The money is to help exporters find new markets and make additional credit available for farmers.
These new measures will help more employers and workers access the support they need to address the harm they have already suffered and the harm we foresee based on our current assessment. These measures will provide stability to our sectors at a time of great unrest and uncertainty. And more than anything else, they will help keep more workers in their jobs, more businesses running, and more factory floors humming. The work-sharing program is not a well-known program, but it is a vital one. and one that has repeatedly proven its utility and value, and one that has been accessed, I must say, more frequently of late.
The announcement comes as U.S. President Donald Trump threatens a 250% tariff on Canadian dairy to prevent layoffs. Ottawa is also relaxing some employment and insurance rules, increasing access to partial benefits for those working reduced hours. And the trade war is already being felt by industries across this province. About a quarter of all flowers sold in Canada are produced in the town of Lincoln, Ontario, and many growers there export to the U.S. They're worried about what Donald Trump's tariffs will mean for their businesses. CBC spoke to the president of Flowers Canada in Ontario about that impact.
We project nationally that the impact will be around $220 million to floriculture businesses, and with counter tariffs around $330 million. So that's fairly significant for family-owned farms. This time of the year, growers say the money's in the greenhouse. Our facilities are all full of flowers for Easter, Mother's Day, for gardens. So we have to tough this out right now. We need to look longer term. But for right now, we need to move this product. It's either going to store shelves and customers' homes, or it's going into the garbage. Flowers Canada provides a tremendous amount of support with emails going out regularly, if not daily, updating growers. And we've had several webinars already where we've had good discussions, right? And our industry is very diverse, from very small farms to very large farms. So the impacts will be different for each of these farms.
And meanwhile, this weekend, a local BIA in Ottawa is launching a new campaign to get people to buy local by putting out over 100 Shop Canadian street banners along a stretch of Wellington Street businesses.
I'm a big believer in the idea of the main street and what it brings to community, and and every shop owner, the dollars that you're putting into the local economy here stay in the local economy. And so, I really try to get people out of the house, come be part of the community, bring some of the vibrancy to the street. Most of the stores here in this strip on Wellington Street and Wellington West, they're Canadian-owned businesses that have a lot of Canadian artisanal goods in them. So, we're trying to get people to consider that.
The Wellington West Business Improvement Area says many of its more than 600 members are already dealing with hurdles like rising inflation, declining foot traffic, and the lingering impacts of the COVID pandemic. And more trouble is lurking on the horizon as Canadians continue to grapple with Donald Trump's ongoing trade actions. New tariffs have been announced by another country. China says some Canadian agricultural and food products are in for steep levies. Starting March 20th, a 100% duty will apply to Canadian rapeseed oil, oil cakes, and pea imports, with a 25% levy on aquatic products and pork. China says the tariffs are in retaliation to levies introduced by Ottawa in October on its electric vehicles and steel and aluminum products. Our Sophia Kambalia joins us now with the first look at your weather. So, Sophia, we're still going to have to bundle up tomorrow, eh?
Yeah, a little bit of an Arctic chill still in place, but the trend this week is gradual warming. In fact, we'll lose quite a bit of that snowpack by midweek. Let's take it day by day now. For today, we had some sunshine out there. It was lovely, made all the difference, but we're still hovering just below the freezing mark. That Arctic air, as I mentioned, still in place. Look at Sunday, though. A bit of a southerly flow coming in. You're close to the double digits in parts of southwestern Ontario, but cold shots of air lingering everywhere else. Here will be the change maker coming Sunday into Monday. An incoming Colorado low. It's not going to mean a ton of precipitation, a couple centimeters for those of you from the Sioux to Parry Sound into the eastern Ontario region, but what it is going to do is raise that warm front far to the north, and much of the southern Ontario region will be in the double digits by the time we get to Tuesday. Would you like to see it? Here's the first 3 to 5 centimeters that you'll see. Just icing on the cake into Monday morning. Monday, though, the double digits begin to creep into southwestern Ontario. It will be lovely along with a lot of sunshine. And then Tuesday is the day that will really take the cake, where the double digits move all the way into parts of eastern Ontario, right down that 401. In fact, temperatures will be anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees above seasonal, especially for areas south of the Great Lakes. Coming up, we'll talk more about the cool down that happens right after this lovely tease of a warm up. We'll also give you some tips on how to survive what is called the worst wake up of the year, daylight saving time incoming.
All right, we'll hear about that real soon. Thanks so much, Sophia.
You're welcome.
And hundreds gathered today in downtown Toronto to mark International Women's Day.
What So a day of celebration, a day of making change. Today is the day that we're going to help make a difference so people can get what they need so they can live in dignity and respect.
We're celebrating the work that women do, and every day they create a more caring society.
I am a grandparent. I have taught many years. I was a high school principal. It's extremely important to me that the young women who are growing up now have the same opportunities I had.
This was one of a number of rallies and events happening across the province. And the theme in Toronto this year is fighting for lives and building resistance. They were inspired by issues revolving around equity rights that have gained more strength since U.S. President Donald Trump took office. RCMP in Manitoba say they found the remains of a serial killer's victim in a landfill just outside of Winnipeg. Morgan Harris's remains were found late last month, along with another person's remains. The discovery comes months into a grueling search some in the Prairie Province said was not feasible. And as Sam Sampson reports, the confirmation comes as bittersweet news to the families who fought so hard to bring their loved ones home.
Morgan Harris's remains have officially been found. Manitoba RCMP confirmed late Friday night remains recently discovered in a landfill are hers. Experts had been searching the Prairie Green landfill since December. They found another set of human remains yet to be identified. At a private event in Winnipeg for the victims' families, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says they can now move on to the next phase of grieving.
Now, as any of us would want, they'll be able to pay tribute to her in a way that will help them move on with their lives.
One of Morgan Harris's daughters, Cambria, posted on Facebook after the news broke. "We found my mother Morgan," she wrote. "It is a very bittersweet moment." She wrote she believes both families will bring their loved ones home, alluding to the other remains found, which family members hope are those of Mercedes Myron. Harris and Myron were 2 of 4 First Nations women murdered by a serial killer in 2022. The others were 24-year-old Rebecca Contois and an unidentified woman who community leaders now call Mushkade Bishake Ikwe Iban, or Buffalo Woman. Last summer, Jeremy Skibitsky was convicted of 4 counts of first-degree murder in connection with their deaths. During his trial, court heard the remains of Harris and Myron were potentially still in a landfill. The Winnipeg Police Service says it was not feasible nor safe to conduct a search. A position also taken by the ruling Manitoba Progressive Conservatives at the time. NDP leader Wab Kinew campaigned in 2023's election on a promise to do the opposite and won.
Through this journey, we have seen some remarkable strength and resilience and power from the family of Morgan.
This is a victory for all Manitobans and their belief in the human rights of Indigenous women and girls and gender diverse people.
Sandra Delarond is a longtime advocate and helped push governments to fund the landfill search. She says this news brings up trauma for other families whose loved ones have never been found.
Never lose hope. Change will happen, but not without the collective efforts, of all of society.
CBC News asked the Winnipeg Police Service whether or not it regrets its decision not to search the landfill and how it will address its relationship with some members of the Indigenous community who may still be upset about that decision. The service says its new police chief, who starts Monday, will speak with the victims' families before making any public comments. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
A reminder, if you're taking the TTC this weekend, there are some closures to be aware of. There is no service on Line 1 between St. George and St. Andrew stations due to track work, and the TTC says shuttle buses will not be operating due to construction along the route. And if you're a GO Transit rider, there is no train service between Oakville and West Harbour stations on the Lakeshore West Line or from Appleby or Bronte stations today and Sunday, except for early morning and late night GO buses. Trip to Niagara will only run Aldershot and Niagara Falls GO stations. Metrolink says the changes are being made to accommodate regular track work, and regular service will resume on Monday. And folks, it's that time of the year again, daylight savings. Tomorrow morning, clocks will jump ahead 1 hour. It begins at 2 a.m. Wartime will switch to 3 a.m. This means we all lose 1 hour of sleep. The annual seasonal change brings longer days and shorter nights, and we can expect a fall back on November 2nd. And we're back with Sophia Cambalia. So tell us a bit more about your long-range forecast, this warm weather.
Yeah, well, first I got to get you set up for this time change. People say it is the worst wake up of the year. Make sure you are prioritizing your bedtime routine, avoid that caffeine after lunch, nap for a little bit in the afternoon if you need to. Usually it takes about 3 to 7 days until we are acclimatized. Darkness now begins at a later time, though. You will have those longer days. Also a great time as well. We love to remind everybody about these time changes. Perfect time to change the batteries in your smoke alarm, your carbon monoxide detector, even vacuum out that dryer vent and change the furnace filter. It'll be a great week to do some of the spring cleaning as we spring forward. We'll certainly feel like spring. Big warm sector in behind this Colorado low. Into Monday and Tuesday, the double digits are back in the picture. Monday, though, a little bit of an east wind could make things feel a little chilly around the east side of Lake Ontario. Tuesday will be the warm day. Temperatures about 10 degrees above seasonal. Will we break some records? It's possible, maybe for Monday's daily temperature, but then look at this U-turn that we do into Wednesday, not just only in southwestern Ontario after a glorious week, but also around the GTA where temperatures fall about 10 degrees with a sharp cold front. The temperature roller coaster will continue into next weekend where we have another Colorado low that will do wonders to not only melt our snowpack with quite a rise in temperatures, but it also brings some wet weather as the price tag this time. Bit of a roller coaster, definitely more of a spring feeling week, Gregory.
Thanks, Sophia.
You're welcome.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching.